Hello and welcome back to Vintage Treasures, and today I want to do something a little bit different on my channel. I know all I've been posting, pretty much all I've been posting on this channel so far has been haul videos, and that's been for a year, and people seem to enjoy it a little bit. Gotta get myself out there a little bit more. Speaking of that, if you haven't already, go check out my Instagram at Vintage Treasures. My thumbnail thing, my little PFP is bebop rocksteady, a lot like my YouTube channel PFP. So go follow that. See if I get to 800 followers by the end of the year. Pretty close. I'm at like 730 right now. So yeah, go help me out over there. Yeah. So today's video, I plan on doing top 10 favorite Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle figures that I own. This does not include the price of the figure, as the market is right now, so no scratch on this list. But this is more about the paint, the accessories, the quality, and just how much work was put into the figures themselves. That's the specifics. The figures are in no particular order, but are all great figures. Let me know in the comments if there's any figures that you want me to get or that I missed on this list that should have been on here. But without further ado, let's start off with our first figure. So, starting off our list, now this is a little biased because this is one of my, if not my first, Ninja Turtle figure I've ever owned, and this is a Donatello figure variant. I'm not sure the name, but I know this is a pretty late release. Let me see the year on it, if I can find it. Shoot. Hold on. Alright, so I actually did find a year on this guy. It is a 1991, so not incredibly late for the line, but it's, I'd say a majority of the figures came out in 90, so it's cool to have a 91 figure in all the other figures that I have. It's nice to have a 91 figure. It's a great figure overall. I love the purple accessories. It really ties in with the bandana. Something they didn't do a whole lot with official figures. If you were to find bootlegs, they likely were the color of the turtle's mask. The removable parachute is a great feature and one of my favorite parts of the figure. And the point that it bends and recoils makes it great for keeping it in his back in your toy box, and even 30 years later it holds up pretty well. And overall, just looking at this figure, he has great paint, a bit of chrome on him, the zipper and his awards, he's a little decorated there, a lot of paint with the red, white, and blue flag, of course representing America, or more specifically, the United States Turtle Force. I know there's a variant of this, the white one, which is actually less of a variant and more of a re-release. I believe it came with a bubble-blowing aircraft thing. Not sure, don't have it, and I think it's pretty pricey. Anyways, let's move on to our next figure. And next up we have Metalhead. This figure is a great addition to anyone's collection, and I actually have had him for about a year now. Christmas will be the official 1-year anniversary of having this guy. Which actually, thinking about it, when this video gets uploaded, it'll most likely be after Christmas. But Christmas is the 1-year anniversary of owning this guy. Anyways, let's move on. He's a great figure. The chrome is definitely a better quality chrome than the one that eventually gets used on Chrome Dome. Very thin on Chrome Dome, very thick and rigid on Metalhead. Play features, we have both of his hands can come off. I am missing his backpack and satellite dish. But if you were to take his hand off, you can then attach one of his accessories he comes with, and boom. Now you can scramble up some foot soldiers instead of having to worry about endangering the turtles themselves. You can send out this unit, but I must specify that in the cartoon he wasn't this small. He was actually quite monstrous compared to the turtles and was likely scaled around 8 feet if we are talking about actual human people, because the turtles are actually quite short. And if you look at them in comparison, he's probably about 8 feet. So, quite the scary thought that I know this guy was roaming the streets of New York City. Also, he has a light feature, so if you put a light up to his head, his eyes would glow menacingly. Maybe with a little less strong light, he'd be red with his eyes in anger. I think he does look a lot better with his backpack, but I don't have it. So let's move on to the next figure. And sticking with robots, we are going to be talking about Fugitoid. This figure is a great figure, and he comes with 4 accessories. I am missing one. None of them are too small to the point where they can get lost in a vacuum. And I'd say the biggest complaint about this guy is his chest plate. It breaks a lot on the hinges, as it does open and close quite easily, and people do it a lot, and it scrapes up paint, and mine actually broke straight down here, right into this hole right here, and I had to eventually find one at a yard sale. But still a great figure. Even if you don't have this gun, he looks cool with his chest closed, but in my opinion, he does look better with his gun sticking out of his chest. You can also put it on his arm, and I think on his legs, but you are at risk at that point of the very jelly-like paint coming off, especially at this age. Now, I did notice one of his legs are translucent. I'm not sure if this is actually part of the toy itself, like a feature, or if this was just poor painting, but I do love it. It's cool. And the colors do vary a lot on the body compared to the arms, which I think makes him look more like a robot, but sometimes it's so drastic and the paint damage is so bad that he's just not worth picking up sometimes. So I will warn you, if you're looking for one, do be careful about the paint colors and the chest plate, because you might miss it. You might miss that his chest plate's missing, and it is not easy to get. I wasn't able to find a listing, that's why I had to wait to get one at a yard sale, and it's probably not going to be very cheap because of the plating that's on the toy itself. As far as paint goes, it's very minimalist, but I do love it. The little splashes of blue and red, and the red eyes to signify that he is a robot. A great figure, a great character in the original show, and he does look remarkably like him. So, of course, I have to put him on this list. And they even detailed his back. They put black on it. And they put it on the legs too. Just all around a great character to put on display, even if you're doing an action scene. And it does not wobble a whole lot if you have him standing in the right position. A great figure. Let's move on to the next one. Up next, we have Wingnut and his sidekick, Screw Loose. As far as paint goes, we'll just get that out of the way real quick. It's minimalist, but just like Fugitoid, it is perfect the way it is. Of course, mocking the 1960s Batman look, without triggering any copyrights, of course. Literally, a Batman looks a bit, if you read DC Comics, or I've seen this character, he looks a bit like Man-Bat, which is the alternate version of Batman in Bizarro Land. I believe that's where he's from. But something interesting about this character, and this is from the 90 wave, is that he's painted on the wings. On the front, of course not on the back, but still painted, leaving a great streak of color going through his wings, which would have decreased the cool factor of this figure, and maybe even pricing points of this figure. The glaze on the arms and legs is just great and keeps the paint in a prime color. It does get some bleach sometimes in the midsection, and you'll notice it in a listing, so keep an eye out for that. Just keep an eye out for paint or chrome in general on older figures, because they can get damaged very easily. And we have his companion sidekick. What is his name? Wingnut? Screwless. That's it. Screwless, which is a tank top wearing mosquito, which makes you wonder how this mutagen stuff works. I'm assuming they were made with mutagen, but if you remember from the Mega Mutants line, which is supposed to be bigger, there's Buzzkill, someone I have, and then there's Needle Nose, which is a giant mutant mosquito, which I don't have sadly. He's huge. He's literally a mega mutant. So why is Screwloose this small? And coming back to the figure itself, as far as accessories go, the belt is great. It's made out of a vinyl-like material, so it can rip easily if you take it off and put it back on quite often. I do for dusting or for cleaning once in a while, but it is not going to affect you. The belt is actually quite loose, which is good, because if you have a Triceratops, you'd know that the belt is quite hard to get on, and the peg can break very easily on these old figures. His grenade gets lost very often. It rarely comes up on eBay. I don't have one, and I don't trust myself to have one. I do have two of the gun, so that's accessories for you. And the paint usually is pretty good on these. I would watch out around the nails to make sure there's no damage if you're like a freak about that, but let's move on to the next figure. Now, I know this is a bit controversial putting Muckman on the heroes list. Oh, Joe is in there backwards. But I do count him as a hero rather than a villain because he fits on the shelf better considering he's green. And, I don't know, I just have had him on that shelf forever. So I just figured, well, he's a good guy now. And it doesn't specify on the card he comes with, on the back of his card, the original card he comes with, it doesn't specify if he's a villain or if he's a hero. So, enough about that. Let's get into the figure itself. As far as paint goes, it's perfect. It's not minimalistic, but it's also not extremely overboard to the point where it's going to distract you from any other figure you have on display. It's just that perfect middle ground, and it's great color. So, to give you a better look at this paint, I'll give you a close-up of him. He has his frog, a different green than the color of the ooze coming out of him, the garbage juice, I guess. His veins are blue and the same red color that his suit is. You have the manhole cover and the garbage can leg, which are the same gray color. That purple vein color for the name badge he has up there. And I think that's it for color, except for the banana. The banana's yellow. His eyes are yellow. And of course you have the black around his eyes and the bug on his head. So I'm guessing they put a little bit more work as far as paint goes into his head. And I can't talk about Muckman, of course, without talking about his main attraction. The reason why a lot of people have them in their collection and why he's so easy to find is because kids love this toy for this specific reason. The ooze. I don't believe he came with the ooze. You bought it separately, and it's expensive now, so you can go to the dollar store and get a little bit of ooze. This one came from the NECA release of him. So with the original toy, you would either take off his cap and pour it in there, and it would come out of his mouth, or you could take out Joe Eyeball and put it in his muck pack and use Joe Eyeball to push it down, and it would go into this compartment here and come out of his back or his front. And they showed that a lot in the commercials. I think every commercial he was in, they showed that feature. So pretty cool. I won't show you for the sake of it making a mess, but I might do it in a review of him. So keep an eye out for Ninja Turtle reviews. I plan on doing them soon. I did one. I said I was going to do more, and then I didn't. So I plan on doing that soon. But without further ado, we're going to get into the villains. And to start off the villains, we're going to start with a recent figure that I have picked up. This is Dirtbag. Released in, I don't know actually, let me check. Looks like he was released in 1991. Great figure. You could tell he's a, maybe not a later figure, but definitely after 90 because of the amount of detail put into his fur. That of a figure like Halfcore or Sandstorm or Sergeant Bananas, Scratch, Hotspot, they had this amount of detail in their fur. And he does have a pickaxe and I believe a gun that I unfortunately don't have. I plan to acquire them soon. They're relatively cheap on eBay and lots. I do have his tail, which helps a lot with standing him up. I doubt it'd be easy to stand up without it. Overall, great figure, great proportions. I love the way he looks. The miner theme is just great. I love the camo, uh, overalls. They executed a lot better than they did in '88 with the camo for Rocksteady. As far as color goes, there's not a whole lot. We got some red for the belt, the gloves, the tattoo, and the helmet. Yellow, which I think is only there. Then there's like a vibrant purple for the goggles. And brown I only see on the boots, so there is a bit of color, but they only have it in one place. Don't think there's any paint on the tail. The backpack is really cool because of the amount of detail they put on that. They have a thermos or maybe a salt and pepper shaker, a mouse trap, a shovel, the bag itself, and this is for the pickaxe. He looks great from the back too. Overall, a great figure. I will probably do a review on him when I get his accessories, but let's move on to the next figure. Now, as far as figures go, this one is really odd. I mean, it's a Flyman, Baxter Stockman, but it's just odd how well made this figure was, considering everything. Like, it has that etch detail I was talking about earlier that all the early 90s, but not 1990 figures have, with the muscle structure shown in his arms for his fly arms, and then the veins itself. And then the point that the veins are painted on his arms, it just really makes the figure look that much more detailed. Now I am missing the arm brace for this figure, but this is a pretty rare variant, not that it's worth anymore, of accessories. Usually this is tan and the arm brace is blue, but this one's blue and the arm brace it came with was tan, a khaki color. Interesting thing about this figure is the pose of the legs would make it really hard to stand this figure up, you'd think, and especially with the wings, but it balances perfectly. And look at the detail in the veins. You don't even see that from the front. And they don't have it in the front. That's weird. They probably should have put that in the front rather than the back. But even with sculpting, we have so much sculpting in the Baxter, like the wrinkles on his chin. Once again, that texture on his stomach, just like the wings. That might even be a bit tighter. We have the ripples on his face, and of course the eyes, the hundreds of eyes he has. Now, I don't know why he's a ginger, because I think in the cartoon he had blonde hair. But this was probably just something they made the figure in concept before they even made the cartoon episode. And there wasn't great translation because it was being animated somewhere in Asia, most likely in a sweatshop, so wasn't great amount of talking from person to person, so that might be why he ended up being ginger. So let's move on to the next figure. And the next figure is Pizza Face. A great figure, straight out of 1990. A lot of detail considering that. And something very significant about Pizza Face is that he never had an appearance in the show. So it was interesting that he never had an episode. in the show. He never had a VHS release by himself, like in a special VHS release for, I don't know, a chain of food like they did with the Burger King releases of VHSs with like Sky Turtles, April Foolish. Uh, I can't think of the other names of the VHSs, but no, he had no release in the cartoon. That's why it's interesting he was made into a figure. Now, my lighting's not doing justice right now, but he does look normal in person, and you'd know that if you had a figure of him. He does look great, and the amount of detail they put into this guy, not only with the paint, which I'll get into later, but even if you were to take the shield out of his hand, they literally took his pinky off, which I think is just like the most interesting little detail. But while we're here, I might as well look at the other things. They painted his teeth, they painted his mustache, they painted the little sauce stain on his eyebrow, the sauce everywhere. There's a variant with a green knife, which I like this one better than the green knife variant. Then you look at the leg, which, by the way, comes off. Lay him down. Great leg. It's a pizza cutter going through a box. There's a painted fly on it. The sauce is painted. And there's even a little sticker to put on the edge. And this is not the only foot he comes with. There's also the cleaver, which can also be used in his hand as a weapon. But in my opinion, looks completely ridiculous on his foot. I mean, there's no way to make this look good. Like, that really, he's hard to stand like that too, so I don't understand why. I don't know, I guess it's a selling point, but it's not great for anything else besides selling the figure. And then we go to the back of the figure, and he's even painted back there. The sauce containers are painted green, which does not show up in the figure a whole lot besides like the bottom of his chin, and then there's some sauce stains on his shirt. That's about it. A great figure, and the pizza box shield with the ninja stars, and like the grenade, and it's just great. I just love this shield. It's such a great figure. Yeah, let's move on to the next figure. And I know I'm cheating a little bit, but I had to put these two figures in the list somewhere, and I didn't want to take up two separate spots. And they're a duo, so I just said, you know what, I'll put Bebop and Rocksteady on the list together. Now, if you did notice, this isn't a variant. I did paint these Converse in myself. The camera's doing them a lot of justice in this situation. I painted over Rocksteady's tusks as well. If that are they tusks? I think the tusks are the things that come out of animals' mouths. I don't know what those are called. Do those have a name? If they have a name, put it in the comments. Now, as far as these figures go, you have like a war-themed rhino and a hipster warhog. I think that's what he is. And they don't seem like a duo that would do well together, but when you put them together, they really do. The combination of them both having shields and both having knives. I don't have Bebop's. I also don't have his drill gun or Rocksteady's machine gun. But they do well together on a display. And this is a soft head Bebop, actually. I'm looking for a hard head Bebop and a soft head Rocksteady to put in a different display somewhere else in my room. But these are just great figures. They're great to have. Of course, you can't army build them, but I wish you could, but it wouldn't really make much sense. As far as paint goes on the original base figures, they're what you expect out of the 88 line of 10 backs. That included Leonardo, Donatello, Raphael, Michelangelo, April, Splinter, the Foot Soldier, Shredder, and Bebop and Rocksteady. It is what you expect out of a low-funded startup company releasing figures for a show that might not even do good. They did great execution, great amount of paint, and these are great figures. But let's get on to the last figure on this list. This is another figure that the light doesn't do justice for, but it's a beautiful, eye-popping figure It's not to the point where it distracts you from every other figure on your shelf, but is beautiful, and it encapsulates the perfect 90s essence of a children's toy. And as far as this figure goes, it has an extraordinary amount of paint and still works well, which is a hard balance to have in a line like Turtles with minimalistic paint. I mean, Scumbug's got a lot going for him. He's got that Ghostbusters-esque backpack gun combo, and I do have the mutant module wires on here rather than his regular gray ones. I don't have the gray ones. They are a bit pricey, and I only see them coming with the whole figure or with the backpack, and I don't really need a double of those things. So I'd rather just stick with the mutant module ones. Plus, you only see half of them, so it's not really hurting the mutant module in the end. A great amount of paint on this guy. We have two variants of white, one for his teeth and tusks, and one for his foot. You have the purple for his body color, which isn't the base plastic color. That's actually this tan color, which is weird because most of it is not tan. This is the blue boot variant, so you have the blue of the boot, and it's separate from the color of the shirt. Then you have the black necktie and the black pants, and the yellow antennas and the yellow eyes, and then the red of the little brain piece here and the eye veins is a different red than the red in the mouth, which is crazy that they put that much detail into a single figure when they had absolute no reason to do so. From a business point of view, this figure is a bit hard to stand up. You have to find the sweet spot on it, so I have to hold it up a bit. But it's just a great figure from all angles. It's just a great figure in the line, and it's not talked about a whole lot, which is quite disappointing considering how good of a figure it is. I feel like that's the case with a lot of Ninja Turtle figures in general. If you enjoyed today's video, please consider subscribing to the channel. All I upload on this channel is toys, vintage toys from the 70s, 80s, and the 90s, so if that's something that interests you, please consider subscribing to the channel. If you like today's videos, like the video, and I plan on uploading reviews of one figure at a time pretty soon to continue the series I started about a year ago, so keep an eye out for those videos. Have a great rest of your day or night, and goodbye.